Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take your pile of sources, articles, research, our own notes, and really extract the most important nuggets of knowledge. We try to help you cut through all the noise and get truly well informed. Today, we're plunging into a stack of articles revealing some absolutely critical health updates from around the globe. We're going to cover quite a range. Groundbreaking medical breakthroughs that could genuinely change lives.
Yeah, some really exciting stuff.
Ongoing public health challenges that demand our constant vigilance, and even some meticulous research into treatments we think we know well.
Right.
Our mission, as always, is to give you the essential insights, maybe some surprising facts, and just enough, let's say, context to keep you hooked.
It's a truly fascinating cross-section of global health today. It really illustrates the complex and, frankly, ever-evolving landscape of medical science. These stories, they take us from the absolute cutting edge, pioneering work in potential cures, right through to the front lines of prevention and even the nuanced understanding of widely used interventions.
Yeah.
There's always more to learn. And these sources really highlight just how dynamic and interconnected the whole field is. It's never static.
Okay, so let's unpack this and dive straight into what I think is maybe the top health update right now.
Right.
It could fundamentally reshape how we approach cancer treatment.
Okay.
I mean, imagine a cancer vaccine, but one that works for many types of tumors, not just one specific kind tailored to a single patient or one specific cancer type.
A universal approach.
Exactly. This isn't science fiction anymore. It's becoming a very real possibility, and it's genuinely exciting.
It absolutely is. And what truly stands out here is the sheer ambition, isn't it? The potential of a quote-unquote universal approach. For so long, cancer treatment has often been so highly targeted, focusing on specific genetic mutations or proteins, or sometimes incredibly personalized right down to an individual patient's tumor profile.
Which is amazing science, but complex.
Incredibly complex and often very expensive. But now researchers at the University of Florida, led by Dr. Elias Sayer, they've unveiled an experimental mRNA vaccine. And it's showing incredible promise in mouse models, moving us significantly closer to that really ambitious goal of a broad-spectrum cancer intervention.
Wow.
It really represents a fundamental shift, I think, in how we might think about activating the body's own defenses against cancer.
So the study itself, it just came out, right? July 18th, 2025, in Nature Biomedical Engineering.
That's the one.
And it describes how this test vaccine, it didn't just fight tumors on its own, but it crucially boosted the tumor-fighting effects of existing immunotherapies.
Yeah, that's a key point.
So it's like adding a powerful strategic second punch to an already strong strategy, giving the immune system that extra kick, maybe, to recognize and fight cancer cells more effectively.
Precisely. It's about synergy. This isn't necessarily about replacing current successful treatments like checkpoint inhibitors, but potentially making them even stronger and, crucially, more broadly effective across different tumor types or patients.
Okay, but the mechanism, you mentioned it was surprising. How exactly did they achieve this? Because usually you think vaccine targets a specific thing.
Right. And that's the truly surprising element, as the researchers themselves highlighted. Historically, like you said, cancer vaccine development has largely focused on identifying a specific target, an antigen, a protein expressed by cancer cells, something unique to the tumor that the immune system can then learn to recognize and attack.
The find the enemy flag approach.
Exactly. But this approach, it's fundamentally different. They didn't get these really promising results by attacking a specific target protein that's unique to the tumor. Instead, they revved up the immune system in a much more general way.
How so?
They spurred it to respond almost as if it were fighting a virus. And they did this by stimulating the expression of a protein called PD-L1 inside the tumors.
Wait, PD-L1. Isn't that the protein that cancer cells use to hide from the immune system? The thing that checkpoint inhibitor drugs try to block?
Exactly. That's what makes it so counterintuitive and, frankly, quite brilliant.
So how can stimulating more PD-L1 help? That seems backwards.
It does seem backwards at first glance, but think of it like this. PD-L1 on a tumor cell normally acts like a don't eat me signal to T cells, the immune system soldiers. Checkpoint inhibitors block that signal, taking the brakes off the T cells. What this vaccine seems to do is force the tumor cells to wave that PD-L1 flag much more vigorously. It essentially makes the tumor hyper-visible, almost screaming its presence to the immune system in a way that triggers a very strong, generalized inflammatory response within the tumor environment.
So it's not about the specific signal, but about creating enough noise, enough alarm, that the immune system wakes up and notices the underlying threat.
That seems to be the idea. It's like pulling a fire alarm inside the tumor microenvironment. The vaccine isn't giving the immune system new targeting instructions for a specific cancer protein. Instead, it's triggering this massive, generalized alert.
Okay.
And when that alarm sounds, the T cells may be ones that were previously exhausted or weren't effectively recognizing the cancer. They suddenly become highly activated. They multiply, they get energized, and in this heightened state of alert, they start noticing and attacking the cancer cells that were perhaps managing to hide before.
So you're energizing the existing search and destroy capability rather than teaching it a new trick.
That's a great way to put it. It seems to create an environment where the body's own, perhaps pre-existing anti-cancer immune responses can finally overcome the tumor's evasive tactics and engage effectively.
So what does this all really mean for patients then, and the future of oncology? This sounds like it could be huge.
It absolutely could be. Dr. Sayer, the lead researcher who's a pediatric oncologist at UF Health, he believes this research reveals a potential new path for treatment, maybe even a genuine alternative or at least a powerful addition to the traditional pillars of surgery, radiation, and chemotherapy.
Especially for those tougher cancers.
Exactly. This has broad implications, especially for battling many types of treatment-resistant tumors where our current therapies often, unfortunately, fall short. Imagine if a vaccine could effectively tackle cancers that currently defy our best efforts, or at least significantly reduce the need for harsher treatments.
You mentioned glioblastoma earlier.
Yes, his lab has done prior work on glioblastoma, a notoriously difficult brain cancer. The potential impact there, or in other hard-to-treat cancers, is immense.
Now, connecting this to the bigger picture of cancer research, some are calling this a third emerging paradigm in cancer vaccine development. What does that mean exactly? What were the first two?
Certainly. So until now, the main focus has largely been on two broad strategies. The first was trying to find a common target protein, an antigen that's expressed by cancer cells in many, many people, sort of a one-size-fits-most approach, hoping to develop a widely applicable vaccine targeting that shared feature.
Makes sense. And the second?
The second, which has seen a lot of excitement recently, is the highly personalized approach, tailoring a vaccine specifically to a patient's own unique tumor targets. This involves deep sequencing of the individual's tumor DNA to find specific mutations and then designing a custom vaccine just for them.
Super precise, but sounds complicated and probably expensive.
Incredibly precise, yes, but also complex, time-consuming, and resource-intensive. That makes it difficult to scale up globally, especially in resource-limited settings. So, as Dr. Dwayne Mitchell, a co-author on this study, points out, this new research introduces a genuinely groundbreaking third way. By using a vaccine designed not to target cancer specifically, but rather to stimulate that strong general immunological response, that fire alarm effect we talked about, they could trigger a very powerful anti-cancer reaction.
And the implication is broad applicability.
Exactly. This is revolutionary because it holds significant potential to be broadly used across many different cancer patients, perhaps regardless of their specific tumor mutations. It could possibly even lead to an off-the-shelf cancer vaccine.
Okay, off the shelf. What would that actually mean for someone diagnosed with cancer, or just for healthcare systems generally?
Well, it would be a monumental leap forward in accessibility and scalability. I mean, picture a scenario where a cancer diagnosis doesn't automatically mean months of debilitating chemotherapy or complex radiation schedules.
Yeah.
Instead, it might involve a series of readily available vaccine shots designed to activate the patient's own immune system to fight the cancer. For healthcare systems, think about the logistics. It would dramatically simplify things compared to fully personalized approaches. It could reduce the immense burden and costs.
So potentially much wider access.
Definitely. This could be a game changer for accessibility, particularly in parts of the world where highly individualized, expensive treatments are simply not feasible right now. It could mean more patients across very diverse geographies and economic backgrounds could access effective cancer immunotherapy.
And it's really fascinating, isn't it, how this builds directly on technology that so many of us became familiar with during the pandemic, the mRNA vaccine platform.
It is fascinating. We heard so much about mRNA for COVID-19.
Right.
But Dr. Sayer's lab has actually been pioneering these high-tech anti-cancer vaccines using lipid nanoparticles and mRNA for over 8 years. Way before the pandemic brought mRNA into the public spotlight, they've been up in this research for a while.
Okay, so they were ahead of the curve.
Very much so. And this new study, it specifically builds on a breakthrough they reported last year. In that case, they used a personalized mRNA vaccine, which rapidly reprogrammed the immune system to attack glioblastoma. That was in a small 4-patient human clinical trial.
So that was the personalized approach.
Exactly, that was tailored. But in this latest study, they adapted their technology to test this generalized mRNA vaccine concept. It wasn't aimed at a specific virus like COVID or a particular set of mutated cancer proteins. It was simply engineered to prompt that robust, system-wide immune response we discussed.
Using the same delivery system as the COVID vaccines?
Essentially, yes. The formulation was made very similarly, using those lipid nanoparticles.
Can you just quickly remind us what those are, the lipid nanoparticles?
Absolutely. Think of them as tiny, biodegradable fat bubbles,
Yeah.
like little protective delivery trucks. Their job is absolutely crucial. They protect the very fragile mRNA molecule once it's injected, and they help it get safely inside our cells. Once inside the cell, the mRNA gives the instructions to produce the desired protein in this case, the protein that triggers that general immune alarm within the tumor. Without those lipid nanoparticles, the mRNA would just get chewed up by enzymes in our body almost immediately. It wouldn't last long enough to work.
Got it. Delivery system is key. And the results in the animal models for this generalized vaccine, they were pretty dramatic, right?
Yeah.
Not just marginal improvements.
They were certainly striking. In mouse models of melanoma, for instance, the team saw really promising results when they combined this new mRNA formulation with a common type of immunotherapy drug called a PD-1 inhibitor.
The checkpoint inhibitors we mentioned.
Exactly. Those drugs that take the brakes off the immune system. The combination created this powerful synergy, really boosting the anti-tumor effect, even in tumors that are normally quite resistant to treatment on their own.
And did they test the vaccine by itself too?
They did. Taking the research a step further, in mouse models of not just skin cancer, but also bone and brain cancers, they found beneficial effects when testing a different mRNA formulation as a solo treatment. Just the vaccine, no additional immunotherapy drug.
Yeah.
And what's truly remarkable is that in some of these models, the tumors were eliminated entirely. Gone.
Wow. Just from vaccine triggering the immune system.
It appears so. They observed that using an mRNA vaccine to activate these seemingly unrelated immune responses could prompt T cells, those immune soldiers that maybe weren't working effectively before, to actually multiply, activate, and effectively kill the cancer, provided, of course, that the immune response spurred by the vaccine was strong enough.
It really does sound like a system-wide wake-up call for the immune system.
That's the potential, yes. A systemic waking up of the immune system to tackle cancer from multiple angles. It's a compelling demonstration, I think, of the body's own incredible healing potential when you give it the right kind of stimulus.
So, okay, let's bring it back to the near term. What does this all mean for the immediate future? What are the next concrete steps for this research? And, what are the big hurdles to actually getting this into human patients?
Right. Well, the immediate future is focused on refinement and translation. This suggests a profound potential. A truly universal way of waking up a patient's own immune response to cancer. The research team, they're now actively working to improve the current formulations, make them even more effective, maybe safer, and then move towards human clinical trials as rapidly as possible.
And the hurdles. Clinical trials are never simple.
Exactly. The primary hurdles are navigating the rigorous phases of clinical trials. Phase 1 for safety, Phase 2 for efficacy signals, Phase 3 for large-scale validation against standard treatments. This process is lengthy, it's expensive, and requires immense resources. Regulatory bodies like the FDA will need to carefully scrutinize this novel approach, especially given its generalized mechanism.
Safety is paramount, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. Ensuring safety in humans is the top priority, followed by demonstrating clear efficacy. But the potential impact here is just so immense, offering potentially an accessible and effective treatment for a wide range of cancers, that the urgency is palpable. The gap between success in mouse models and widespread clinical application is often described as the valley of death in drug development.
Yeah.
But the drive to bridge that valley here is incredibly strong given the global burden of cancer.
Okay, that cancer vaccine, it really offers a powerful glimpse into a potentially healthier future. But as we often see in health, while we're chasing these amazing cures and breakthroughs, we also have to constantly battle very real ongoing threats.
Mm-hmm. The daily grind of public health.
Exactly. And few threats are as persistent and, frankly, widespread globally as those carried by mosquitoes. So from that hopeful horizon of future cures, let's shift our focus now to the very real, ongoing public health vigilance needed, particularly concerning infectious diseases spread by those tiny buzzing menaces.
Yes, and what's particularly striking when you look at these next sources is seeing very similar patterns. Similar public health campaigns, similar alarm bells ringing, but in completely different parts of the world.
Yeah.
It really highlights the persistent and evolving challenge of these vector-borne diseases globally. Despite all our advanced medical science, these seemingly small creatures, mosquitoes, they continue to pose significant widespread threats. It requires constant, coordinated public health responses that, in some ways, feel very reminiscent of challenges faced centuries ago. Basic hygiene, vector control.
Back to basics almost.
In many ways, yes, alongside the high-tech stuff.
Okay, so first up, reports from July 20th, 2025 indicate that just 5 years after the initial COVID-19 crisis began, China appears to be grappling with another significant outbreak, chikungunya fever.
Yes, right.
Hospitals in the southern Chinese city of Foshan are reportedly full, struggling to accommodate patients. That's a stark reminder, isn't it, of how quickly public health systems can get overwhelmed by a sudden surge in an infectious disease.
It's a very significant development indeed. The Chinese Ministry of Health has already launched a major campaign to try and, manage this outbreak and protect people. What's particularly concerning here is that Guangdong province, where Foshan is located, has apparently hardly ever seen cases of chikungunya before.
So low immunity in the population.
Precisely. That means the vast majority of people there likely have little to no natural immunity, which makes them highly vulnerable to rapid and widespread infection. Sound familiar?
Very familiar. And Hong Kong nearby is on high alert, too.
Yes, Hong Kong, which is a neighboring region with extensive cross-border travel and economic ties, is understandably on high alert because of this epidemic. They're fearing a significant influx of cases. The challenge here is exactly what we saw with COVID-19 in its early days. A novel pathogen, or at least one novel to that specific population, encountering what we call a naive population. That can lead to explosive spread.
So what are they doing on the ground? How are they combating it?
Well, local officials in Foshan, Shunde, and Nanhai districts sent out notifications just this past Saturday, urging absolutely all citizens and communities to practice indoor hygiene and, crucially, outdoor cleanups to prevent mosquito breeding sites.
Getting rid of standing water, things like that.
Exactly. It's an all-hands-on-deck approach, focusing squarely on the primary vector of the disease, the Aedes mosquito. They're literally asking every household to join the fight against mosquitoes by eliminating breeding grounds. It's critical for a disease like chikungunya, where there's no specific cure, only supportive care. Vector control is paramount.
And do they know how this outbreak started?
It seems the outbreak itself was catalyzed by an imported case. A single case detected in Shunde district back on July 8th.
Just one case sparked all this.
Apparently so.
Yeah.
That single case acted as the spark for this wider epidemic, which just underscores how incredibly quickly diseases can travel and establish themselves in our highly interconnected world. As of Friday, Shunde district alone had reported a staggering 11,161 confirmed cases. Yeah, with the majority concentrated in 3 municipalities, Chengkun, Beizhou, and Lekang.
But you mentioned something crucial from the source earlier, that the symptoms were minimal for patients in Shunde. How does that work with hospitals being full, and how does it affect the public health response?
That's a really important point, and it creates a unique and significant public health challenge. If individuals are infected and they can spread the virus via mosquitoes biting them, but they experience only mild or maybe even no symptoms, well, they're far less likely to seek medical attention immediately, aren't they?
Right, you wouldn't know you had it.
Exactly. Or you might just feel a bit under the weather. This makes contact tracing incredibly difficult because you can't easily identify who is infected and who they might have exposed indirectly through mosquitoes. It also really impacts the public's perception of risk. If people aren't seeing widespread severe illness, they might be less inclined to rigorously follow preventative measures like mosquito control.
Complacency kicks in.
It can. And this allows the virus to spread silently through the community, potentially driven by asymptomatic or mildly symptomatic carriers. That can quickly overwhelm healthcare systems before the full scope of the epidemic, including potentially more severe cases elsewhere or complications, is even recognized. It's a tough situation.
And it wasn't just contained to Shunde.
No. Beyond Shunde, other districts also reported confirmed cases. Nanhai district added 16 cases, Changqing district added 22 cases by Friday, and then Guangdong's neighbor Macau announced 1 imported case of chikungunya on Friday as well. This was traced back to a local citizen who had recently returned from a trip to Foshan.
So it's already spreading regionally.
Clearly highlights the rapid potential for cross-border spread, especially in these highly mobile populations across busy economic regions. One case can travel fast.
Okay, so for those listening who might not be familiar, what exactly is chikungunya? What should people know about this virus? Why is it considered so debilitating?
Right. Well, according to the World Health Organization, the WHO, chikungunya is a virus spread primarily by mosquitoes, and its hallmark symptoms are fever and, crucially, excruciating joint pain.
Excruciating is the word you hear a lot.
It is. The virus itself is an RNA virus belonging to the Cogaviridae family, genus alphavirus. And the name chikungunya, it's quite evocative. It's derived from a word in the Kimakonde language, spoken in southern Tanzania, and it means that which bends up.
That which bends up.
Because of the pain.
Exactly. It refers directly to the stooped posture, the bent-over appearance of infected individuals due to that significant, often severe, joint pain or arthralgia. It can be truly disabling.
So besides that really characteristic severe joint pain and the fever, what other symptoms should people be aware of, and how is it primarily spread? You mentioned mosquitoes.
Yes, the primary means of spread is indeed through the bite of an infected mosquito, specifically female Aedes aegypti and Aedes albopictus mosquitoes.
Ah, the usual suspects. Same ones that spread dengue and Zika. The very same. These mosquitoes are unfortunately very effective vectors for several nasty viruses. Beyond the intense joint pain and fever, a major issue with chikungunya is that patients can experience joint discomfort that persists for months or sometimes even years after the initial infection clears.
Months or years? That's awful.
It can be profoundly impacting on their quality of life, their ability to work, everything. This chronicity of symptoms puts a huge long-term strain not just on individuals, but on healthcare systems needing to provide ongoing supportive care, pain management, physiotherapy perhaps.
Any of those symptoms?
Yes. Other common symptoms can include skin rashes, nausea, fatigue, and muscle soreness. It all contributes to a generally miserable experience for those infected. And those long-term health and public health challenges presented by a disease with such persistent symptoms are really considerable, requiring sustained medical and public health support systems.
Okay, shifting gears now, geographically at least, to the United States. Reports from July 22nd, 2025, highlight rising concerns about a different mosquito-borne illness, West Nile virus. Authorities in Philadelphia are raising the alarm there.
That's right. Another reminder that these aren't just tropical diseases.
No, definitely not.
The Philadelphia Department of Public Health confirmed the first positive mosquito pool for West Nile virus, WNV, in the city for this season.
Okay, a mosquito pool, just explain that quickly.
Sure. It means they collect a group of mosquitoes from a specific trap location. They then test that entire batch or pool together. If any mosquitoes in that pool test positive for the virus, the whole pool is considered positive. It's an efficient surveillance method.
Got it. So it signals the virus is present in mosquitoes in that area.
Exactly. It indicates that the virus is actively circulating in mosquitoes in that locale. This particular positive pool was found in a sample collected near Pennypack Park, which is in northeast Philadelphia. Now, importantly, as of the report date, there hadn't been any human cases reported yet in Philadelphia.
That's good news.
It is. That's a critical distinction. But health officials have voiced, understandable concerns about the possibility of more mosquito pools testing positive across the wider Philadelphia region as the season progresses. It signals a potentially escalating risk to people.
So is Philadelphia just an isolated incident right now, or is this West Nile issue popping up elsewhere in the U.S. too?
It's definitely a broader concern, not just Philly. Beyond Philadelphia, the news reports indicate 3 more positive samples have been found outside the city. These include regions as far apart as Albany County in New York and parts of Wyoming.
Wow, Wyoming too. Okay, so it's geographically diverse.
Yes, it suggests a more widespread presence of the virus circulating in mosquito populations across different parts of the United States already this season. Local mosquito control teams are, as you expect, very active. They've been testing numerous collected samples of Culex mosquitoes, specifically Culex tarsalis in some areas, which are the known primary vectors, the main carriers, of West Nile virus in many parts of the U.S.
Different mosquito than chikungunya then.
Yes, chikungunya is mainly Aedes, West Nile is mainly Culex. Different species, often active at different times of day too, Culex tend to bite more dawn and dusk.
Right, and they're testing birds too.
They are. Additionally, it's worth noting that 2 birds have also tested positive for the virus in some areas being monitored. Birds are the natural hosts, the reservoir for West Nile virus, Mosquitoes get infected by biting infected birds, and then they can transmit it to humans or other animals. So finding infected birds is a really important early indicator of viral activity in an area, often showing up before human cases start appearing.
So what's the official risk level right now, according to health authorities, and what preventative measures are being taken given this broader detection pattern?
Okay, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, has analyzed the current risk level to humans as low. And that's based on the fact that at this specific moment, they're seeing only sporadic, not consistent or widespread virus activity being recorded in mosquitoes and birds.
So not panic stations yet.
Not yet. It indicates the situation isn't yet at the level of a widespread human epidemic. However, despite this current low-risk assessment, authorities are absolutely taking strong, proactive measures. You don't wait for human cases if you can help it.
What kind of measures?
Mosquito control teams are actively fogging areas that are on their radar for increased mosquito activity. They're also ensuring targeted larval control, killing mosquito larvae in standing water within vulnerable areas like public parks, storm drains, places where Culex mosquitoes tend to breed.
And personal protection advice.
Yes, residents of Philadelphia, and really anywhere West Nile is a concern, are being strongly urged to take personal precautions. Things like wearing clothes with long sleeves and pants, especially during dawn and dusk when Culex mosquitoes are most active, using EPA-approved insect repellents, and, critically, eliminating any standing water around homes, bird baths, clogged gutters, old tires anywhere mosquitoes can lay their eggs.
Basic mosquito hygiene again.
It comes back to it, yes. Public health measures plus individual action.
Now, Gail Mendoza from the Philadelphia Department of Public Health made a statement that caught my eye. She said, "When we detect our first mosquitoes that are infected with West Nile virus, we tend to see the spread of West Nile virus among mosquitoes throughout the city." That sounds like this first detection is seen as a significant signal, not just a one-off.
That statement absolutely underscores the typical epidemiological pattern we see with these diseases. A single positive mosquito pool isn't just an isolated event. It often precedes wider circulation of the virus within the mosquito population, and eventually that increases the risk for human cases. It serves as a crucial early warning system.
Makes sense.
And as a further very important public health precaution, something people might not be aware of, individuals who do test positive for West Nile virus are asked to refrain from donating blood or organs for at least 120 days after they were diagnosed.
120 days, 4 months. Why?
It's a crucial measure to prevent any potential transmission of the virus through blood transfusions or transplanted organs. It ensures the safety of the public blood supply and organ donations, even accounting for the fact that the virus might persist in the bloodstream for a while, possibly even in people who are asymptomatic.
Okay, that's important to know. Can you give us a quick overview then? What is West Nile virus and what are the typical symptoms people might experience?
Sure. West Nile virus is a viral illness primarily transmitted through the bite of infected mosquitoes, particularly those belonging to the Culex genus, as we mentioned. It's actually surprisingly common and considered endemic, meaning it's constantly present in the U.S. during mosquito season. And it's been detected in many other countries globally, too.
It's in the same family as some other well-known viruses.
Yes, the virus belongs to the flavivirus family. That's a group that includes other viruses you might have heard of, like dengue virus, Zika virus, yellow fever virus, and also viruses like St. Louis encephalitis and Powassan virus, which can also cause neurological issues.
And symptoms. You said many are asymptomatic.
That's right. What makes WNV particularly challenging from a public health perspective is that many, in fact, the vast majority, maybe 80% or so of people infected with West Nile virus show absolutely no symptoms at all. They fight it off without ever knowing they had it.
Which complicates tracking it.
Hugely. It complicates surveillance and control efforts, as people can be infected, potentially act as a source for mosquitoes to pick up the virus from without ever feeling ill. However, about 20%, or 1 in 5 people, do develop what's called West Nile fever. These are typically mild to moderate symptoms.
Like what?
Like a fever, often accompanied by headache, sometimes a feeling of heaviness in the head, general body aches, muscle or joint pain, sometimes fatigue, maybe swollen lymph nodes, or a skin rash on the chest, stomach, and back. Usually lasts a few days to maybe a couple of weeks.
So if most cases are asymptomatic or mild, what makes this virus a significant concern? Why the public health alerts? And is there a cure?
The major concern, despite that high rate of asymptomatic cases, is the potential for severe neurological complications. It's estimated that about 1 in 150 infected people So, less than 1%, but still significant given widespread exposure, can develop severe neurological illness,
Neurological-like.
like encephalitis, which is inflammation of the brain, or meningitis, which is inflammation of the membrane surrounding the brain and spinal cord. It can also cause acute flaccid paralysis, like polio. These severe forms can be life-threatening, or they can cause long-term debilitating neurological damage like memory problems, weakness, tremors, vision loss.
And who's most at risk for the severe form?
The most vulnerable populations are typically the elderly, say, over 60, and individuals with certain underlying medical conditions like diabetes, kidney disease, cancer, organ transplant recipients, or anyone with a weakened immune system. Their bodies may be less able to fight off the infection effectively, making severe disease more likely.
And treatment. Is there a specific cure?
Unfortunately, no. There's currently no specific antiviral medication that works directly against West Nile virus. Treatment is primarily supportive care. For mild cases of West Nile fever, it's usually rest, plenty of fluids, and over-the-counter pain relievers or fever reducers like acetaminophen or ibuprofen.
And for the severe cases?
For the severe neurological cases, hospitalization is often necessary. Treatment focuses on managing the symptoms and complications, things like intravenous fluids, pain management, respiratory support if needed, like a ventilator, and preventing secondary infections. Recovery from severe West Nile disease can be very slow, sometimes taking weeks or months, and some neurological effects can be permanent. Prevention through mosquito control and personal protection is really key.
Definitely sounds like prevention is the best medicine here. Okay, for our final section today, let's turn our attention to ongoing research into the nuances of medical interventions that many of us have become very familiar with recently, specifically the COVID-19 vaccines. There's a recent study looking at their short-term effects. And this really reminds us, doesn't it, that medical science is always learning, always refining its understanding, even about things that have been widely adopted and are considered generally very safe and effective. It never really stops.
Absolutely. And this particular deep dive, I think it highlights the crucial and continuous vigilance that's required in science. We need to understand the full spectrum of effects from any widely administered treatment, even those with incredibly well-established efficacy and safety profiles, like the COVID vaccines.
It raises a big question, doesn't it?
It does. It raises that important question for society. How do we effectively balance the immense, frankly undeniable public health benefits of a vaccine? I mean, one that has saved countless lives and prevented severe disease on a massive global scale. How do we balance that with the meticulous ongoing monitoring of potential individual side effects, no matter how subtle or rare they might be?
Yeah.
It's a continuous process, really, a cycle of learning, refinement, and ensuring that we're achieving both the broadest possible public health good and maintaining the highest standards of individual patient safety.
So this specific study, it originated from Turkey.
Yeah.
And it put the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine in the spotlight, examining its short-term impact on a very specific part of the eye, the cornea.
That's correct.
The article summarizing it was updated July 21st, 2025. And, this is an area, eye health and vaccines, that hasn't been widely discussed in the big public conversations about vaccine side effects, which makes this study particularly noteworthy, I think.
I agree. It's quite specific. The research focused precisely on the corneal endothelium. Now, for listeners who aren't eye experts.
Most of us.
Right. The cornea is that clear dome-shaped window at the very front of your eye. It covers the iris, the pupil, the anterior chamber. The endothelium is just a single layer of cells, but it forms the innermost layer of that cornea.
And what does it do? Why is it important?
It's absolutely crucial for keeping your cornea clear so you can see properly. These endothelial cells act like tiny pumps. They constantly pump excess fluid out of the main body of the cornea, the stroma, to keep it from swelling up and becoming cloudy or hazy. If these cells get damaged or die off, and importantly, they don't really regenerate well in adults, your cornea can swell, lose clarity, and your vision can be severely impacted.
Okay, so a vital layer, and the study looked at this layer before and after vaccination.
Exactly. For the study, they evaluated the eyes of 64 patients. They took measurements before the patients received the Pfizer vaccine and then again after they had received 2 doses. The time interval between these pre- and post-vaccination eye exams was nearly 2.5 months. So it's looking at relatively short-term changes.
Yeah.
And the study itself was published in a peer-reviewed journal called Ophthalmic Epidemiology.
Peer-reviewed, so it's gone through scientific scrutiny.
Right.
So what did the researchers actually find regarding changes in this endothelial layer? And the big question, was vision affected in any way? because that's what people will immediately worry about.
Right. And crucially, let's state this up front. The researchers found that the participants did not experience any noticeable vision loss. That's a very important finding for reassurance.
Okay, good. No vision loss.
No reported vision loss in this cohort. However, they did find some measurable, although subtle, changes in the participants' corneal health when comparing the post-vaccination measurements to the pre-vaccination baseline.
What kind of changes?
These included, 1, a slight thickening of the cornea overall, 2, a measurable decrease in the number of endothelial cells, what they call endothelial cell density. Remember, these are the vital pump cells. And 3, they observed some changes in the structure and shape of the remaining cells, what ophthalmologists call polymedrothism and pleomorphism.
So detectable physical changes in that crucial layer, even if vision wasn't immediately affected.
Correct. These findings do indicate some short-term changes occurring in the corneal endothelium after 2 doses of the Pfizer-BioNTech mRNA vaccine in this group of patients. While, again, the changes didn't translate to immediate visual impairment in these specific participants, the very fact that there were measurable changes in such a critical part of the eye certainly warrants attention and further investigation.
So what does this actually mean for people listening, especially if you, say, have existing eye conditions or if you've already received the vaccine? Should people be concerned or take specific action based just on these findings?
That's the key practical question. For the general vaccinated population, especially those without any pre-existing eye conditions, this study did not suggest any immediate cause for concern regarding vision, nor did it recommend any specific action. The observed changes were subtle. They didn't lead to vision loss in the study group. However, based on these findings, the experts involved and others commenting on it are suggesting or calling for closer monitoring of the corneal endothelium, specifically in individuals who already have a known low endothelial cell count. This might be due to age, certain genetic conditions like Fuchs' dystrophy or previous eye surgery.
And also people with corneal grafts.
Yes, and also particularly in people who have undergone a corneal graft or transplant. These are individuals whose corneal health might already be somewhat compromised or more fragile. The thinking is they might potentially be more vulnerable to even subtle additional changes or stressors on that endothelial layer.
So it's more about vigilance in specific potentially vulnerable groups.
Exactly. This recommendation really underscores the importance of continued vigilance and perhaps more tailored patient care or follow-up for these known at-risk groups. It's about proactive monitoring to ensure that any potential changes, however slight, are noted and managed appropriately, particularly in individuals who might be more susceptible to developing corneal problems down the line.
What kind of follow-up research is really needed then to fully understand the implications here? These were short-term changes, right?
Yes, that's the critical next step. This study looked at effects about 2.5 months post-vaccination. What we really need now are larger studies following people for much longer periods, years, ideally. We need to see if these subtle corneal changes are transient, meaning they resolve completely over time, or if they persist long-term. And importantly, if they persist, could they potentially have any cumulative effects or clinical significance for more vulnerable individuals over many, many years?
And understanding why it's happening.
Precisely. Researchers will also want to investigate the potential underlying biological mechanisms behind these changes. Why might the vaccine be associated with these subtle endothelial alterations? Is it related to the inflammatory response? Is it something else? Understanding the why will help clarify the clinical significance, if any, and could inform future vaccine development or monitoring strategies. It's really just another example of that continuous, meticulous scientific scrutiny that gets applied to all medical interventions, even ones like the COVID vaccines, with overwhelmingly positive public health benefits, just to ensure the absolute highest levels of safety and understanding.
It's a good reminder that science is a process, not a destination.
Absolutely.
Okay, wow. We have navigated a truly fascinating and I think critical range of health topics today on the Deep Dive. We went from the absolute cutting edge of cancer research to the potential universal mRNA vaccine, offering a really revolutionary glimpse into future treatments.
Truly hopeful.
to the very real and present challenges of mosquito-borne diseases, like chikungunya hitting hard in China and West Nile virus popping up again across the U.S., reminding us of those ongoing global health threats we constantly face.
Yeah, the constant vigilance required there.
And then finally, we took a closer look at the ongoing meticulous research into the potential short-term impacts of widely used vaccines, showcasing that continuous scientific scrutiny that's applied even to our most common medical interventions.
It really is a fascinating snapshot, isn't it? It shows the sheer breadth of human endeavor in health, that continuous quest for cures that sometimes seem almost like science fiction.
Right.
The unwavering vigilance against threats that are emerging or just stubbornly persistent, and then the incredibly meticulous study of even subtle effects of our medical interventions. And it's worth remembering, knowledge is really most valuable when it's understood and applied, right?
Yeah.
It allows us to make more informed decisions, both about public health policy and about our own personal well-being.
Well said. So, here's a final provocative thought for you, our listeners, to chew on. In a world where health news can often feel overwhelming, maybe fragmented, sometimes even contradictory, how do these kinds of stories, the breakthroughs, the ongoing challenges, the detailed follow-up studies, how do they reshape our understanding? Not just of global public health as some abstract concept, but also of our own personal well-being, and maybe the profound interconnectedness of human health across continents and cultures.
That's a great question to ponder. Consider how interconnected these seemingly disparate stories truly are, despite their geographical and thematic differences. You've got a cutting-edge lab breakthrough in Florida, a very real mosquito outbreak causing problems in China, and a detailed eye study coming out of Turkey. They all speak in different ways to that universal human pursuit of health, the complex challenges we face together, and that continuous vital effort to understand our world and our own bodies just a little bit better.
A lot to think about. Until next time, stay curious and keep learning.